about American, airlines look at each airport that flies into their hub, and not just the passengers that are flying to Dallas. I mean, that's a very small percentage of your travelers, of course. It happens to be your largest single O&D is Dallas, but they look at connectivity. In the case of American, these are the top 21 destinations where people are connecting over Dallas in 2008. The biggest markets were Seattle and Baltimore and Washington, where there were like 10, 13 passengers a day. But what makes a hub work is the fact that it's spreading to 150, 200 destinations over Dallas. And these are the top 21. Each of these averaged more than 5 passengers a day. But the point of this is that Dallas, to you, is an eastbound and a westbound hub. Dallas connects you to the world, and so does Houston. And Atlanta connects you to the East Coast very well, and also internationally. Baltimore happens to be in the top 3 connecting markets for all 3 of those hubs. So the biggest connecting market for Houston is San Juan. The biggest connecting market for Atlanta is Dubai. Delta loves Dubai passengers. Providing lots of passengers to the Middle East is a tremendous benefit for them, and obviously is why the schedule is optimally timed to their international flights. Dallas, of course, carries significant numbers of international passengers as well, just not as many on average as these destinations. Now, just taking a look at Dallas a little further, took a look at and plotted their passengers and traffic over 2007 through May of 2009, which is the most recent that we have. As John indicated, there's been a big improvement since May. The summer numbers were really, really high. But just looking at this, and some of this is due to adding the ATRs into the system, upgrading flights from regional jets to ATRs, there was a 20% increase in seats on looking at 12 months ending May 2009 versus 12 months ending 2008. So they added a lot of capacity in the market, and there was only a 1% increase in passengers. So year over year, the load factor dropped 10 points from 68 to 58 in rough terms. Now, it's not a bad thing. Obviously, it would have been better if the passengers had grown like the seats did. But American put the ATRs in because they thought the ATRs, first of all, the ATRs, this is the perfect mission for them in terms of distance from Dallas. It's a much lower cost aircraft for them. It does give you more seats. And they really thought, I think, that they were doing you a favor by putting a little larger airplanes in that would give you some extra seats on Monday mornings and Friday afternoons and fill it. But obviously, as we know, they had tremendous problems with dependability. The ATRs did not work at all well. We're up to American Airlines standards throughout this time period. I know John has communicated that to American in very strong terms. And what we see happening, I tried to plot this over time so you get a little sense of what happened. Back in September of 2008, when they brought the ATRs in from San Juan, there were only 12 flights initially, and of course, Clean got 10 of them. So, you were the launch customer for the ATR, and they had problems. They had maintenance problems, they had problems with the pilots becoming accustomed to them because they were using crews that had never flown them before and so forth, and it just created lots of problems. Far more, they just didn't expect this or they wouldn't have done it the way that they did. Earlier this year, they reduced that down to 7 and brought more communities into the ATR lineup, if you will. And in September, you had 7 trips. In October, that goes to 4, and in November, it goes down to 3. Now, one of the things they've done is they've actually pulled an aircraft out. They're keeping one more aircraft as a spare to help with their reliability. I'm told that this month, this morning they just told me that their reliability has been 98%, while we're running 91 to 92%, which is not good at all. I mean, airlines need to run 97, 98% minimum reliability, and that's just the flights that operate. We know that in addition to that, there were lots and lots of flights that were delayed due to maintenance and so forth. So they're working on it. It is improving. They've taken the 2 overnight trips that were here, that were produced your first 2 morning flights, and those are now going to regional jets. So that at least should help fix that problem. I think going forward, as long as they have the regional jets in Dallas, you will always have some ATRs in the clean market. As I say, from their perspective, it's really the perfect distance to fly. The ATR does give you some more seats. It's an economical aircraft for this distance. So you'll probably always see a mix, whether it's 3, 4, 5 trips a day, but you are, at the moment, you're going to 11 trips a day, whether it's a 10 or 11. If you have up to half of those being ATRs, as long as they fix the dependability, I don't see that as a problem, but they need to make sure that the dependability is fixed and stays fixed. The Air Service Risk Assessment report that we did was an extensive report, lots and lots of detail, lots and lots of numbers. You think the numbers so far have been a lot. The risk assessment report was full of tables and comparisons. I'll go through a couple of those, as grueling as it may be for you, because I think it's important that you see a little bit of what we're looking at and why. The purpose of the report really, as John mentioned earlier, was to somewhat benchmark the market relative to other airports in the Southwest region and around the system, airports that are operated by these airlines. So we looked at all domestic airports, the region, airports served by the airline, and so forth. Performance indicators, airline revenues, yields, ticket prices, the number of seats that are operating, the load factors, and RASM. RASM is a critical factor, and it's one of the primary measurements that airlines use. RASM is revenue per ASM, so it's the amount of revenue that's produced by a flight or a market for each ASM. So for each seat mile that's in the market, how much revenue is there? It is the measurement. It's an acronym, but it's the measurement that airlines use to compare market to market. Fleet plans, industry trends, and so forth were all taken into account. Airline strategies as we know them, and again, those are always changing and evolving, and airport costs. I'll take you through a couple of slides like this for American Airlines just to give you a sense of what we looked at. And you can see from this chart that of the airlines that of the airports that American Airlines serves, Killeen was number 79 in terms of passengers for 2008. I blocked out those airports 3 above and 3 below just to try to focus in a little bit and do some comparisons here. Now you can see that was 104,000 passengers. And the airlines look at that on what's called per day each way, PDW. It means the average number of people across the U.S. who fly from Killeen to Dallas and who fly back from Dallas to Killeen. Tuesdays are different, the Thursday after Thanksgiving is different. I mean, every day is different, but for the airlines to compare one market to another, they put them in terms of per day each way, PDW. So you can see in the case of Killeen, 285 passengers on average per day on American Airlines. And that put it in a ranking with, see Madison, Wisconsin, St. Croix, Huntsville, Milwaukee, Oakland, and Springfield are the airports that I've identified just above and below that. Domestic revenue column, Killeen produced $23.7 million. Passengers flying to and from Killeen, the total amount of revenue was $23.7 million.